Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at something incredible. Crazy even. One of the weirdest, most absurd ships Wargaming has ever put into World of Warships. This is the new Tier 10 Premium Italian destroyer, Alberico da Barbiano? Apologies for pronunciation, but this ship is wild. Basically covered with 90mm guns that fire sap and have an incredibly fast reload. So once you hold down mouse button 1, there is almost no downtime, especially once you get some buffs added to your ship. There is no downtime in firing these guns. It is ridiculous. It is silly. It is very powerful as well, but hard to play. This ship can take a lot of damage. Its hull is not the best. But the DPM, oh, the DPM. This ship has 640,000 SAP DPM, which is higher than basically any DPM in the entire game. There's only a few ships that actually do have more DPM, and that being Colbert, AP specifically. This out DPMs HE Colbert, Edgar AP, as well as Annapolis AP. That's it. Anything else in this game has less DPM than this ship. It is crazy. The SAP here does struggle with pen a little bit. You're going to see a lot of shatters, so you do need to find targets that are going to actually take full pens from you. But that's where this F key comes into play. This ship has an F key. The standard SAP shells have 26mm of pen, but this F key reduces our reload, makes our reload slower, 24% longer reload, in exchange for 31% better pen. In practice, this means you get 34mm of pen with the SAP shells with the F key activated, which I should be using here against this Missouri probably, because that gets us through the battleship extremities, and that is really, really important for shells that are so floaty. This ship has the ability to out DPM most ships in the entire game and pen over 32mm of armor. Maybe not at the same time, but you'll see the DPM here is so extreme. Sometimes you actually don't have the ability to hold mouse button 1 and shoot all of your guns. There will be guns that are reloaded that are just never shot because you can't fire quickly enough by holding mouse button 1. You'll have to spam click to actually make use of the DPM. It is absolutely crazy. So how do we get this ship? Well, it's going to be for steel. 30,000 steel will be the price, and it'll be available in this next update. I believe 14.3 should be coming soon, and should just be in the armory there. So a new steel destroyer, perhaps not the resource you were hoping for. I know steel can be a little bit tricky to get, but that is what this one will be available for. This ship has some of the worst concealment out of all these tier 10 destroyers, as well as the most HP though. So you're spotted from the moon, you are basically a light cruiser without a citadel. And this ship will be getting a buff actually before it goes live. And that makes my job a little bit difficult in deciding or telling you if the ship is really good or not, as I can't play with the final ship. We looked at the Blucher yesterday, and I had a great time with it, but that ship is getting nerfed on its release, so I'm not sure if I can really say that that nerfed state will be good or not. It's hard to tell before I can actually play with it. Here, though, the buffs are going to be your speed boost. You go from 5 down to 4 only, so you do get a reduction in the number of speed boosts, but it goes from 80 seconds to 120 seconds duration. That is a huge increase that we can further buff up with our commander skills, as well as there's an upgrade module for coal that will extend your engine boost even further. This will be really, really useful on this ship. More importantly though, is your turning circle radius is going to be 760 meters, putting it pretty similar to Regolo, where the one I played with here had an 880 meter turning radius. That is close to battleship level, and it made it very difficult to dodge incoming fire. I found this ship to be very clumsy, very difficult. It would eat torps rather easily, I think. But if they buff that turning radius, maybe that's going to help it out to dodge a little bit more consistently take a little bit less damage open water. We'll see. Again, I can't play with it, so it is hard for me to know. And since we're here talking about consumables already, let's talk about this smoke screen. You've already seen the Italian ships' smokes and how they run with you at full speed. This one is going to last 45 seconds of action time and have a 90-second cooldown. So reasonably quick cooldown, And what you're probably going to do is alternate between using your smoke and using your engine boost, unlike what I'm doing here. I've never been all that proficient at the Italian destroyers, and I gotta play them some more, to be honest with you. And playing Barbarino here, I had a good time. I had a really good time playing this ship, probably because of the insane gunpowder here. But playing it like a light cruiser without a citadel worked out extremely well, and it makes me want to go back and play some Regolo again. Fortunately for this ship, we also have on this engine boost a 15% engine boost, allowing you to do some speed juking a little easier. It is a little bit sluggish to get going. The acceleration is a little bit slower, and taking prop mod plus engine boost makes it reasonably maneuverable. Again, that turning radius would be nice for me to be able to play with. I just don't know what it's going to do. Sap shells do have limitations on their pen though, so when you're facing broadside ships, they're going to do incredibly well. When people angle, and Libertad's a pretty extreme example because it has so much armor and so little superstructure, but against angled targets, they will be bouncing and shattering your shells a lot of the time. It has ricochet angles starting at 60 degrees and going up to 75 degrees. Now that is the same as Regolo, so if you're used to that, you've probably got an idea of what the ricochet angles are going to be like here. The shells are quite a bit floatier though relative to Regolo. So out to 12 kilometers, 13 kilometers, it's still 12 kilometers. It's a 9.8 second flight time. Regolo, 8.2 second flight time. And Sherman is down at 7.4. So don't think of this as like a Sherman in the ease of aiming. The ship is going to require some skill in aiming these shells, especially because there's so many of them. It's hard to tell and account for where you're aiming incorrectly a lot of the time. I had a difficult time aiming with this ship, and you'll see that throughout this video. By any means, I do not play this ship perfectly, but oh man, it is so much fun. Doing tons of damage there to that Libertad. A nice start to this video. We got some more though. What about into destroyers? What happens when you face a DD with this much DPM? Well, you gotta go spot them first of all. That is the big problem here. This ship having its concealment at 9.83 base is pretty bad. Even something like a Kaba has better conceal base than you. So it's going to be difficult to get in range, but there are ways. There are things you can do. One is playing with teammates. Of course, playing behind a spotting destroyer, always going to be a great idea. Not always going to be possible, like on this flank, for example. So we can charge in a little bit, play a little bit risky. There is a DD in front of us who is spotting us. Fire at the Hindenburg. Hindenburg opens up, so we know that he's going to stay detected. And we can just have an angry smoke screen towards him. Although the lightning opens up as well. I don't want to take too much damage though, as it is a large hull, so I pop my smoke and get a little blind fire in, but now we'll go after this Hindenburg and just charge at the smoke. That is something we can try to do. It's a little bit risky, certainly early game especially, but in a situation like this is really our only option of catching this lightning. Otherwise, we're just outspotted so easily. And because we're a rather large hull, it's quite easy for battleships and cruisers to do some good damage back into. Sure, you don't have a citadel. You're not going to be taking the sap full pens from Columbos just because the caliber is too large. They don't actually full pen destroyers, which is nice. Really, really nice these days. Colombo not seeing a nerf in the most recent round of nerfs for some reason. And so with this ship, you don't have to worry about it as you would in a traditional light cruiser. Our smoke is just about to run out. We're running, but we're also going to start turning away, just in case the lightning was smart and got away. I don't want to be charging in while there's a Hindenburg that could be DPMing us down. Fortunately, we do catch the lightning, finishing him off, and that is one way. But an alternate way you can do it is to wait for the destroyer to open up on you and then smoke and have your teammates spot for you. That's one of the really nice things about these Italian smokes that I do need to practice using. I gotta figure that out a little bit more with this ship. You can bait someone into shooting you and you have the ability to instantly go dark. Almost no other DD can do that in this game, just because their smoke puffs behind them. They can't run at full speed, they gotta slow down. Takes them a little bit to do so. Here's a situation where Minotaur radar is helping us out, but Daring shoots at us, we smoke right away, we go undetected. Now yes, it is the radar that was spotting him initially, so maybe not the best example, but it's still close, right? It's still close, and Minotaur Sherman would be the one spotting for us, allowing us to get our DPM in. It's hard to hit those DDs at range, especially if they're maneuvering. Fortunately, this daring goes in a straight line, so it's a little bit easier for us. But that's one way to do it. We're on 13,000 damage right now, okay? I want you to keep that number in mind because we're about to be brawling a Z-52. He charges us with his Hydro, thinking he's about to out-gimmick us. No, 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 no. No, Mr. Z-52 player. I am a ship from 2025. Oh no, poor Z-52. Yeah, we're on 32,500 damage. We basically did 20k to that guy in that short a time. You do not want to get caught by this thing. You do not want to get caught by this thing. And since we pen 26mm base, even DDs that traditionally would be a little tankier because they have a 25mm plating, something like a Elbing, I believe, has that. There's a few of these larger destroyers that have that. You're full penning right through them all. Trying to avoid incoming fire here, a little bit sketchy, certainly, but we do just barely manage it. But what about those battleships with 32mm armor upper belts? Yeah, that's where this gets a little bit crazy. It's very easy to hit these ships. Iwami, all the extremities, bow, stern, 32mm of armor, upper belt, 32mm of armor, and of course, a superstructure we can full pen as well. We start on 51,000 damage here. And yes, it is quite the lead time, and I probably could do with being a little more patient, getting a little closer to really rip some more HP off these guys. We're already on 60,000. The damage ramps so quickly, and even with this reload penalty for using our F key, the DPM is still extreme here. 73,000, that's over 20k off this guy just in this short period of time. He's turning out though, so we got to account for that. Our shell's going a little bit short there. You're going to notice, since the shells are so floaty, that small changes in direction from the enemy ships will result in very extreme diversions from where your aim point goes. You got to be very aware of where you're aiming and what the enemy ship is doing. There's an auto aim in this game. There's an aim assist in this game, and oftentimes it's just far too simplistic. And any sort of maneuvering throws off your aim incredibly far thanks to this poorly implemented aim assist. And unfortunately, wargaming is not going to get rid of it. That combined with aim bugs means you're going to notice at times your shells will just randomly start missing, even though your shells were hitting, even though you were hitting the same spot, aiming in the same spot, the ship wasn't maneuvering. Suddenly they start missing. It's really, really strange. Maybe that's just cope, perhaps. Maybe it is just misaim on my part. But that is something to be aware of here. Notice Victoria here taking very little damage because he does not have a 32mm upper belt or deck armor. So this ship really needs to find enemies that have large superstructures or that definitely have those vulnerable upper belts. That is going to be the key to getting a ton of damage off people. Oh, look, a Shikishima. Yes. Okay, starting on 49,000 HP, we are going to get a lot of damage from this guy. We're going to take a lot in return, though. This is early days of me playing it. Wasn't really as aware of this poor turning circle radius. So we're going to take a lot of damage. Specifically from the Colombo here, he's going to do around 10,000 damage into us, which hurts. But this is arms race, so we have an HP buff. That's why we have so much HP here, and a small reload buff. And throughout this video, depending on my HP with Adrenaline Rush, whether I'm spotted to get Fearless Brawler going, we're going to see some of these gun turrets not being fired. They're just going to be green on the bottom center of our screen there, where they're loaded but not firing. And that's just because mouse button 1 cannot keep up. So it's probably a good idea to swap over to your F key then when that is the case, as you're just leaving DPM on the table anyway, so you may as well get the extra pen out of it. And there's a debate to be had on whether you should be using this F key or not into different battleships. Ones like the American battleships, for example. Shikishima, it's pretty easy because the upper belt is 32mm of armor, and we'll get through that with this F key. But with American battleships, 38mm, we won't be able to pen with this sap shell, and even with the F key. So maybe you want more DPM and just go for superstructure, because you're going for superstructure anyway. I found, though, at least looking back at the footage here and playing it towards the end, that I wanted the F key anyway. You're sacrificing a tiny bit of DPM, but it's hard to aim these shells, guys, and hitting the extremities, you're going to randomly, even if you're aiming for superstructure, you're going to start hitting sections of the ship that are 32mm, the bow and stern, just by chance, just because it's so difficult to lead these shells, or at least I found that to be the case, and getting that little bit of consistency there is nice. Not paying attention to where I'm going, we're actually going to ground in front of this guy, and I probably should just stop firing here, looking back on it, but I'm greedy for the damage. I see that 32 millimeters of armor, and I think, how much more damage can I get? Notice we're already over 100k. We've only been shooting the Shikishima, by the way. Yeah, and we take another big hit. It's far too greedy. Yes, I know. But the damage output is absolutely absurd here. Even if he's going to angle, you got to angle pretty close to bow in to sap shells to even mitigate this damage. It is absolutely wild. Very, very fun ship to play. It's hilarious to have this level of DPM, but not sure how balanced it is, or more importantly, how is this ship going to be to fight against? I gotta wonder if this is just going to be one of the most annoying ships to fight against. Might not be overpowered because it'll struggle to spot for itself. Many DDs will just be outspotting this thing. It will take a lot of damage because it is a large hull. But this level of DPM... Oh man, I foresee some frustration in my future as a Battleship player, I gotta say. Here, very easily able to hit the Monty superstructure, so not swapping. So I don't know. We'll have to see what the meta or the optimal way of playing becomes, but tons of damage out of this ship, and I gotta see what that Shikishima damage output was in this game. Unfortunately, we are gonna lose. Didn't get all the buffs in this one, but that's okay. I actually lost the vast majority of my games playing this ship. I wonder if it's because I had a tough time engaging the enemy destroyers. Get outspotted, take too much damage, and they win flanks, where it's tougher to deal with that when you're a solo gunboat DD. Oh, 91,000 damage off that Shikishima, by the way. Yes, now a Kremlin. We're on low HP, Fearless Brawler, and notice, our guns aren't quite keeping up. Not quite. There's a few of them that are staying green the entire time at the bottom of your screen. That is how fast the DPM is here. Also got to mention that only at long range can all of your guns fire. I wasn't able to see exactly the range at which it cut off, but it's somewhere in the 11 or 12 kilometer range. A few of them start to drop off, and then I think around 7 or 8, a few more drop off. Your firing angles are also not amazing. Probably should have talked about that a little earlier in this video. Whoops. But you have to give 70 degrees of broadside on this ship to actually fire all of your guns. And at least kiting, you do still get 94% of your DPM down to 32, 33 degrees. And that's why you're probably seeing me in a kited position more often than not when I'm dealing with enemy incoming fire. It's a lot easier to get more DPM and still be reasonably well angled. Tons of shatters on this Kremlin. Very little actual damage out of this ship. It would be much better for me to reposition rather than just absent-mindedly fire my guns. But I think this was my first game, or one of my first games, so I was just laughing at the I was just laughing at holding mouse button 1 and having this level of firepower. Certainly not the best play, but hey, we do manage to take him out. And oh, look, a submarine. Yes, we do only have the ship-based depth charges, but the sap does so much damage. If you didn't know, sap is the best ammo type against submarines. It does immense damage. It one-shots them with Columbo. That is one of the best elements of having Columbo in the game as it currently is. Sucks to fight against as a surface ship player, but man, when the Columbo on your flank one-shots the sub, there is almost no better feeling. Last clip here, we got ourselves an Azumo. How quickly can we rip the HP away from this guy? even angled like this. I'm thinking there's some plunging fire coming into play at these longer ranges. 12, 13, 14 kilometers, you start to get floaty enough shell arcs that suddenly your sap pen allows you to get through deck armor a little easier, I think. I'm not exactly sure on that. But I should mention, just before we go back to port and talk about the builds and look at the armor and all that, you have terrible AA. Perhaps not surprising, considering it's Italian, but maybe surprising when you look at the ship's description and how it was planned as this dual-purpose gun mount AA gun platform. And yet in this game, it has terrible AA. Kind of funny there. We, of course, are likely to get a carrier rework, redoing everything, so there's not really much point in talking about the current characteristics, I don't think, but it is a little disappointing, I gotta say. Fortunately, our air detect is a little better, than our regular detect. So we're not the worst in the game. We're only 9th worst of the tier 10 destroyers when it comes to air detection. And for the builds, it's really how daring are you when it comes to maximizing DPM and sacrificing some concealment. Considering I was actually out reloading my guns, I think maybe running more conceal, maybe a little more survivability than this is a good idea. We don't want to leave DPM on the table, of course, when we're holding mouse button 1. Spam clicking mouse 1. I mean, if you're going to do that, props to you, but I would suggest having a mouse on order. You'll probably go through a few of those in your time playing this ship if you want to do that. But holding mouse button 1, yeah, we can actually get faster reload than actually we'll keep up, which is hilarious. Here's the build that I was running here. Not actually getting Consumables enhancement here. Maybe fitting that in would be really good. But I noticed anytime I got shot at, engine, rudder would get knocked out rather often. So last stand, I think, is a must. Not surprising. It's a DD. We want last stand all the time. But going Fearless Brawler, Adrenaline Rush, all of the reload stuff. Might be worth considering a concealment expert here, getting a little better detection. Fearless Brawler not going to be active at all when you're in your smoke, of course. So maybe it's less useful than I think. But the DPM, guys, I get a little greedy for it. My eyes get a little too big, I suppose, looking at these sheer number of guns. We do have that 9.8 detect normally, so this build here taking concealment on the upgrade slot, and then running steering gears. That's where I was using my engine boost as my prop mod. So using engine boost when I needed to accelerate, and that's what I waited for. That allowed me to take steering gears here, getting a 4.8 second rudder shift. Usually it's a 6-second rudder shift. Combined with this turning radius that I'm playing with, felt pretty rough. It felt pretty rough, but getting that buff down to 780, I believe. Let me just double check. Wow, I can't even find it. 760. There we go, 760. That's pretty nice. That will definitely change the way this ship plays and make it feel more comfortable. Our speed is pretty good. Not quite the fastest, but very, very solid regardless. The thing is, this ship is just very large and clumsy, so you are going to take a lot of damage, even though you have a lot of HP. You definitely could do the full rudder prop build, the full lighthouse deal here, and I did try that for a game, but it felt really uncomfortable having 9.8 detect. You get outspotted by things like Minotaur. Light cruisers start outspotting you. That's a little challenging. Yes, we have DPM, but not the HP or the heals to necessarily keep up with them. Armor-wise, yeah, just 19 everywhere. Very, very vulnerable to HE, SAP. I mean, short fuse AP shells as well. It's going to take damage, so you have to be a little bit careful in those engagements you take. But I suppose that's going to be what that exhaust smoke screen is for that we see on these Italian DDs. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Is this thing going to be busted, or perhaps just a funny little gimmick ship that is not actually that broken? I'm a little bit undecided myself. Gotta wait and see what these buffs actually do to this ship, as well as that engine boost, getting a buff to its duration. Really, really gonna help this ship out a lot to survive. And given that's my main complaint about this ship, or my main concern about it, well, it could be busted. We'll see. I'm not looking forward to getting spammed by this one, I'll say that. But that's going to do it for today's video. 30,000 steel new tier 10 Italian Destroyer Premium. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.